How's that stitching going, Carter?
Well, welcome back to emergency medical work in the field, starring me, Carter. Sometimes you'll saw yourself and have to entertain people, and you'll run into a problem where the stitching isn't very good, and you've made yourself very ill in the process. So we're gonna talk about how to deal with septic problems. So it's really important that you get a lot of rubbing alcohol, just like more than like enough to kill a small horse, ideally. And you're gonna just want to dab that shit everywhere. Anyway, it's actually Carter and Kevin Explain Football, part two of our mid-season spectacular. I'm Carter.
And I'm not a licensed medical professional to condone these ideas.
Yeah, that bit was going to get real gnarly really fast, so I decided to pivot off. But yes, so welcome back. Last session, we covered the AFC and the various comings and goings of all those teams. So for this session, we are going to talk about the NFC and also
Oh,
do a
yeah.
couple fun superlatives to celebrate the midway point of the season. Shall we kick it off with the NFC West?
West, I thought you said East.
Oh, wait, that joke makes more sense if it's actually West and you say.
Yeah.
Oh, well, anyway. So the NFC East, the Philadelphia Eagles are 8-2. The Washington Football Commander guys are 7-4. The Dallas Cowboys are maybe the most shocking stat of the season, 3-7. And the New
Yeah.
York Football Giants are 2-8.
Gross.
Yuck. Yes.
So, quick rehash on the format. As we go through each division, we're going to talk about what our highs are for each, what our lows are, and what our don't sleep on things.
Yes. Simple format. I've really enjoyed this format for our main feed episodes. So let's dive in. So my highlight for the NFC East
My
is
highlight is just support of your highlight.
yeah, nice. I appreciate that. But yes, after the Hail Mary, no matter what happens from here on, this is a cosmic victory for the Commanders. Again, last year the team didn't know what it was going to be called. They'd only just scraped off the guck of Dan Snyder, and this year they have been in a little bit of a funk. They've lost two straight over 5 days. But during this mini bye, I do think it's important to take a moment and say, hey, this has been a really good year for them. You know, they were projected to be one of the worst teams in the league, and they have a reasonable chance of winning the division right now. Jalen Daniels has been a rookie delight.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible numbers, 68% completion percentage. Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler have inexplicably formed a really fun pairing. Terry McLaurin, maybe one of the most punished men in the NFL, who's had to be a great wide receiver, but truly a deluge of diarrhea at quarterback, is
Mm-hmm.
having his best season by a country mile. He's already at 712 yards. He's most likely going to blow by every single statistic he's had before. And yeah, they've had a couple signature wins. The games they haven't won, they've been competitive in, like the Steelers and Ravens games. They've been able to punch above their weight class even when they haven't been winning. And everything from here on out is just gravy. Like, obviously, they're slowing down a little bit. Jalen Daniels' ribs obviously are bothering him a little more than they want to admit.
Mm-hmm.
But, as long as you're competitive and as long as you're competing for a wild card spot, huge victory. A huge victory to go into next season with when the rebuild is officially over. Like, again, this was a year rebuild year. You were
Yes.
dumping talent. Now you're immediately going into the get talent corner of your team.
Yeah, last year, very hard talent dump. And it was very bad for the Eagles because there was a lot of talent. That was two teams that they played. But just to recap from last year, the Commanders got only 4 wins. So they're already doing almost better than last year.
They almost doubled it.
They've
They
already
will
almost
double
doubled.
it.
Yeah, because their last few weeks is Cowboys again, Cowboys twice, Titans, Saints, Falcons, Eagles. Not in that order. I very much jumped around.
Hmm.
Um, but with the exception of the Falcons and the Eagles, you're telling me that they can't get a win against any one of those teams, at least one. I don't believe it. They'll at least get double last year. But kind of going off of your point, like for being an Eagles fan, for supporting the like another team in the division, unobjectively, this is the right point.
Right. This is the feel-good story of the NFC North season. Unless the Eagles win a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Because as good as the Eagles have done this season, they did good last season. They did a good season before that. They're not really, like, I wouldn't say they're, like, on a Chiefs caliber or it's just like, oh, they're going to be running the division for years. Because this division hasn't had the same winner of the division for, like, a dozen years or so. Like, back-to-back years. So I don't think that's the case. But it's like, it's not really like a anything new kind of situation, which sounds a little snobbish, but I don't think I'm wrong. But the Commanders having this huge of a turn this season with a very intimidating, like, upturn, because they were undefeated for a while.
Right.
They're a little bit on a cold streak right now, but their last two games were against a 1-point loss to the Steelers and a little bit more than 1-point loss to the Eagles, which aren't like joke teams this year.
Right. Yeah. And even the loss to the Eagles. Well, the loss to the Eagles is just the like Cliff Kingsbury red flag of like, oh, they're figuring out your tricks. Mm-hmm. A lot of short passes.
Yeah, but it's like it's literally, it just shows a lot of good promise, and I'm excited to see where they go from here from a being able to watch competitive football aspect.
Right. If you draft a quarterback in the top 10, the only thing you need to see is feeling like you got the guy. Seeing him make enough good plays, seeing him show enough poise and leadership ability, and just general, like, that intangible, like, chutzpah you need to see from an NFL quarterback to be like, all right, no matter what happens going forward, got the guy. The hardest part is over. The part that has destroyed much better teams is over. Like, the part that's blown up the Jets, that's fucked over the Steelers for years, that ruined the Browns, we got that part done. The hard part's done. Everything else from here should be simpler. And, like, yeah, you've done that. And, like, I think it's also good because it's, like, in dumping talent, in going full rebuild, the problems have become apparent. Like I said, that Eagles game really underlined, like, okay, you need one more adult wide receiver who isn't Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
Your defense needs a lot of overhaul on the defensive line, but you knew that because you traded away Chase Young and that other guy whose name always fails me for some reason.
I know who you mean.
Yes, it's one of those guys. One of them guys.
They're excuse me, they're having a very good rebuild, and I mean, first off, back-to-back years where it proves that QB number 2 overall in the draft is having a turnaround team than QB overall number 1.
It really, and a part of that is like franchise competence, and a part of that, I have to imagine a part of it is also just like the less, like having the other guy not having to make the choice is so much less stressful. Even though it was a choice, because he had to choose between May and Daniels. Both of whom, again, have passed the test. But Commanders get the added bonus of, okay, we know we got the guy, but also the team is... Mm-hmm. We don't have to wait a whole nother year to win games.
Yeah, they also completely rebuilt like their offices and stuff, too.
Right.
So...
Right, it's like a full culture, like it's a full culture purging. It just feels nice. Shall we go to the lows?
Once again, I feel like they're the same thing.
But, why is nobody talking about the move?
I can running backs. Say, yeah. I was gonna say the fall of them boys, the Cowboys, it's kind of catastrophic in a sad way.
It felt like it was a possibility for a year or two, and when the bottom actually gives out,
yeah, where they ended last season, the regular season last season, 12-5, They are currently 3-7. They have they don't have the ability to match last year, which is, I feel like, at least a kind of minimal goal, unless if you're going through like a big rebuild phase or like you lost a lot of players, where it's like, sure, they lost some people, but they also they didn't gain anybody, which leads to Mr. What About the Moon? Which, side note, cause like, I mean, it makes the team look bad and they're okay, but anyway, um, that wait, I gotta see. Did I make this note somewhere else? Nope. I just didn't want to spoil anything later. Um, yeah, fun fact. Cowboys are the only team in America that haven't won at their home stadium in the year 2024. Every
Yeah, and that's
every other sports team, not even like at the NFL, every other sports team has won at home in 2024 except for the Cowboys. Which kind of is a terrible sign, especially because it is almost December.
yeah,
Also, no,
it.
you can go.
Oh, I was just gonna say, which is weirdly emblematic of the team's problem. Spending a lot of money on very high-end prestige things like Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons, and every single one of them just kind of goes catastrophically wrong this year. CeeDee Lamb just kind of seems checked out. Dak gets hurt. Micah gets hurt. Stadium's blinding people. No one's talking about the moon.
Fun fact: they put curtains over it the following night.
For fucking Logan Paul, the fake fight between Logan Paul.
Or the following week was Logan Paul, Mike Tyson. But yeah, they put up curtains for like the following night the stadium was used, and it was just like, it's like, goddamn, you can't do that for the games. You don't think the sun's gonna be a problem? To which Carter says,
Why is nobody talking about the moon?
yes.
But yes, no. But again, that's emblematic of like, they'll roll out the red carpet for big money making events, but not the actual football games. It's the same thing with the turf. It's what we discussed last week. It's the same thing with the turf. Yeah, it is just an embarrassing way for all of this to end. But it felt inevitable. Of just like they just kept running it back. This is the logic of like, oh, well, if we have enough high-end players, it'll just keep working. We've been 12-5 the last couple of years. Let's just keep going. It's a sadder version of what San Francisco's been doing, but at least San Francisco had the excuse of they've been to the Super Bowl twice. They've been right there.
Yeah.
They were right. They could taste it. They were so close. Whereas you guys haven't been able to win more than one playoff game.
And they refuse to acknowledge like their faults too, in my opinion. And the why
Right? No humility on this.
Why is no one talking about the moon? I feel like is a very clear example of that. But it's like, all right, if it's not broke, we're not going to fix it. But if this person leaves,
it's on fire.
Yeah, but if this person leaves, we're not going to replace it. And it's like, and it's not like, oh, we made a Super Bowl appearance. Oh, we made a conference appearance. It's like you're losing in the playoffs relatively early. You still have the same coaching staff for quite some time.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's like, you guys do not have, like, Kansas City can let people go because they've won two like, again, every Super Bowl they win from now on is just legacy, sort of more on top. Like, everyone there's legacy's been sealed. They're fine. They don't have to, like, sweat it anymore. Whereas it's like, you guys, your stars are aging. It's getting more expensive to keep the team together. And also, Jerry Jones is older than Joe Biden. Like, the window to win was now. And, like, the running back thing is so emblematic of it, because it's just, like, someone described it really well as, like, okay, it's fine to not have a top-end running back. Maybe some teams just can't find it in the budget to get us Quan Barkley or, Christian McCaffrey, and that's okay. You can move that money other places that you think are more important, but you have to have a plan. And the running back position is just so emblematic of, like, them not having a plan whatsoever. It's like, they let Tony Pollard go. They don't really replace him. They know deep down Rico Dowell is like a good change of pace back, but not a good starting running back. And then Jerry Jones, who I have to remind you is older than Joe Biden and running a billion-dollar organization, ends up spilling the beans that they wanted Brandon Allen in the draft, and they end up losing him. So they just have to be like, I guess Zeke is back, and now they're the worst running team.
Mm-hmm.
Just incompetence top to bottom. Don't sleep on points. The Eagles just fixed their defensive back room in one draft. Howie Roseman gets a lot of shit for drafting drafting big guys. It seems like his biggest lesson from the Rager disaster is okay, I'm going to make it so I never have to actually make a decision. I'm either going to trade up to get a top 10 pick where the pick will be obvious, or if I don't have a blue chip guy follow me, I'll just trade out. Yeah. I genuinely imagine his draft process is someday in April, before the draft, he wakes up, has his cup of coffee, heads to the toilet for the inevitable bowel stress that causes, sits down with one of those big draft booklets you can get at Barnes & Noble, just goes all right, who are the two best defensive linemen? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Who are the two best linebackers? Mm-hmm. Literally every single position he might need, just first two names. And this draft was emblematic of that, with getting Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. And, a lot of times it hasn't worked out. It took a while for Sweat to get going. Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter kind of slowed down halfway through last year. But goddamn, did it work right away this time. Quinion Mitchell is quietly, I know defensive backs don't tend to get the Defensive Rookie of the Year awards, but he's putting up a good argument for it. Absolutely shut down Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, let's not look further down the thing, Carter. Because I put him for who I think is going to get, who my award for Rookie of the Year is. Spoiler.
Oh, nice. I haven't listed mine yet. Cooper DeJean has also looked really dynamic. Some of the plays he was making against the Bengals were incredible. And it's God damn it, they really can't keep getting away. Again, it's kind of crazy how it actually did all work out. Those two, Jalen Carter, Josh Sweat, Jordan Davis, they've all somehow worked out exactly as you hoped they would. And it's God damn it, how did we let this happen?
They look.
Well, we know how Jalen Carter happened, but we don't need to relitigate that.
No, they know it's. They look how. It's. I'm trying to think this way. They look more competent than previous years, which is nice. And some of those glaring weakness people, for lack of a better word, have either found a replacement, have pretty much been replaced.
Mm. Yes. It's a masterclass in addressing a problem immediately and hitting it hard. Does your Don't Sleep On tie into this?
Kind of. So my Don't Sleep On is they've had just the division as a whole has had a very successful draft. Because those two very clear examples.
Yes.
Another one of somebody not on the best team, but somebody that's shown a lot of upside. Malik Neighbors on the Giants.
Literally on any other team, he would probably be competing for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
Yes.
He would be a stud on almost any other team.
He looked so good before the concussion, and I do feel deep down, a part of them they've told him to quit because they're you're not getting injured anymore.
Yeah, I think it's definitely past the point in this season for them where it's time to just give up. We're done with this season. So he's not going to win Rookie of the Year. But if he was on somebody of a somewhat of a higher caliber, like your Chargers, your Cardinals, things like that, he would definitely be one. And another, a huge one we talked about already, Jaden Daniels.
Genuinely, you could argue 4 or 5 game-changing players were drafted by the division this year, which is nice. An influx of talent is always welcome.
It's a very big influx of talent to the division, and I don't think any of them are kind of wasted. The Falcons picking up Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix Jr. or Penix Jr.
Penix. Not Penix. For the love of God, man.
Listen, man.
We've been talking for 2.5 hours.
Yeah. But it's that's kind of one of those all right, that seems a little silly. But no, they used a lot of their good picks to fill in spots they need. and
Yeah, I would agree with that.
they've all shown. So great on them.
Yes, that's a good one. Yeah, shall we head on to the NFC?
Yeah, hit us with the North stats.
Yes, the NFC North. The current positioning is loading. Sorry, sorry, sorry. Siento. It is the Detroit Lions with a league tied for the league best, 9-1. Minnesota Vikings, 8-2, right on their tail. Green Bay Packers, 7-3. Oh my God, I did not notice. That's really funny. And Chicago Bears, 4-6.
Yeah.
I mean, wow, that's very smooth. Starting off with the obvious highlight, we don't need to talk about the Lions anymore. Complimentary. My stance is, unless they do something truly insane, like throw 5 interceptions in a game and still win it, like, of all the teams where I'm like, I know exactly what they are, I know exactly how they win, like what their ideal win state is, like, it almost feels redundant talking about them unless they break records or do something particularly interesting. Like this week, it's interesting to mention that they basically treated the Jaguars like a college team, like a Division III college team.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's like, yeah, well, anyway, people score touchdowns, rah rah. Like,
Yeah.
I don't. There's no need to think about them until the playoffs.
It was nice to see the Jacksonville high school team get to play on an
Get
NFL
that big,
field.
yeah, and they got that couple $1 million you can get, and that'll really help them out building facilities and stuff. It's worth it for the little beatdown.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. No, we don't really need to talk about them. And then kind of on my point where it's just like, the Lions look hot, Green Bay looks warm, and the Minnesota Titans. What the hell am I talking? Minnesota Vikings. Despite being a little higher on the list than the Packers, my exact description is they look cold but are warm. Kind of like a hot pocket you just microwaved, where you're not 100% sure if it's like how it actually is, but in reverse.
I don't microwave anything, but yeah, I'm one of those guys.
That checks out. But no,
But
they all
it's
look.
fucking radiation. I don't care what they say.
Oh, you're not wrong. I just said it checks out. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, no, Lions, Vikings, and Packers all like at most 2 games in between each other, and they all look violently competitive. Where the Lions looked dominant last season, and they're really honing it in this season, and have
They've reached their final form of this era.
Yeah, they have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games left, and it looks like a competitive. Some of them are more competitive than others. They play the Packers, Bills, and Vikings, and the Bears twice, but I feel like that's a little less of a threat than other teams. But division games go crazy.
Right. Yeah, honestly, I'm really happy with where all 3 of these teams are.
Yeah.
Green Bay is similar to Houston, where it's like it kind of feels like they should be a step further ahead, but last year was unexpected. So
Yeah.
this is all gravy.
Yeah, this is all like proving you have a very good system, and their end of season is pretty similar, and the Vikings' end of season is also pretty. They're all pretty like similar end of seasons. Where actually, they play 5 games against the Bears between the 3 of them. So the Bears play almost one of them every single week. From this point out, but they all play each other at least once, and I feel like that's a big potential for some upsets and movement around in the standings.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
They all do they all play the Seahawks as well? Is that also a thing?
Do they play I think they play the West.
They do play the West. All of them but the Lions play the Seahawks. The Lions already played the Seahawks this season. Including the Bears. The Bears also play the Seahawks. But it's interesting to see. There's potential for movement and stuff in their standings, and they're putting on a good football showcase where if this is one of those moments where three, that was an insane catch in the end zone in the snow. Uh, but you're seeing three teams from the same division in playoff fixture. I wouldn't be surprised if it's from the NFC North.
I completely agree. Our low, mine is, both of ours are about the Bears.
Yeah.
Mine is more focused on coaching, but...
Yeah, I'll go general first. Mine is just the Bears making the division look bad.
Agreed.
I don't think they're putting up enough of a fight to render this being the best division to watch. They're 4-6, so they're 3 games behind the next closest team. But it doesn't look like they're playing on the same level. I think.
Agreed.
The Lions, Packers, Vikings are easily all playing at least top 10 worthy games, even though they might not be top 10 themselves. They're at least playing top 10 worthy games. The Bears are kind of the lower half of the league. I don't exactly know where because there's so many outliers and just random moments this season. But that's about it.
Yeah, honestly, the Bears back-to-back-to-back, back-breaking, spine-chilling, sad boy losses to fully put them, on the outside looking into the playoffs. Yeah, Matty Eberflus is why you don't let a coach get 2 first-round quarterbacks. Why, especially when you're drafting in the top 5, you get a chance to draft a top-tier blue-chip quarterback. You kind of do... unless it's a freak thing, with the Colts, where Peyton Manning gets hurt and then everything falls apart. That is why you don't let them. You have to dump out the bathwater before you put the baby in. You don't want gross, stagnant, old water in with the baby because the baby will get sick and die.
We're gonna
because
have to talk about this analogy.
Sorry, I was watching.
Later.
I was watching Smile 2. It's really gnarly on the body horror lately. But it's fine. I appreciate how gonzo they go with some of the violent stuff. But anyway, it's it's like mid-tier creepypasta, but in a good way. Anyway, but yeah, because it's Eberflus Eberflus brought in Waldron, who was the exact wrong choice for this team that really needed to lean into what Caleb does well: creation, getting the ball off either quick or after a cool play. The offense they've set up now is wholly inequipped to deal with the fact that they don't have an offensive line and that they haven't really established a hierarchy with their receivers, and the fact that DJ Moore is kind of giving up and clearly was not kidding about how much he loved Justin Fields. Meanwhile, the defense isn't nearly playing as well as it has the last few years, which raises the question of well, why are you still here, Matty? That was your job. And the fact that so many little microaggressions have come out about him losing the locker room or the feelings, the vibes around the team. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of just what I said last week of you kind of needed to have a full reset. If you want to break this curse, you needed a full culture reset with Caleb, but you wanted to keep all the jank pieces you've had from Trubisky and from Fields, and it just none of it quite fits right. And it starts at coaching. And the funny thing is, again, Caleb hasn't been as good as Daniels or May right now, but he's looked fine. You've seen the flashes, you've seen the moments, where he can create. He's surprisingly good at calling shit at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And it's I just really hope a new coach gets in there before he gets sacked too many times and lets him rebuild
himself.
Right. Yeah, I don't want him to end up another Carr. Please don't let that happen. He's too talented for that.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to the don't sleep on stuff?
Sure. Once again, we're hanging out in the same realm for this division.
It's Sam Darnold time, baby.
My note is literally a Kirkless, JJ-less non-failure.
Yes. Which I will say, it is a testament to how good Justin Jefferson is. He still looks like the best receiver in the league. And also, For all the faults of Sam Darnold, he does not look a gift horse in the mouth. He will just throw the ball to Justin. Again, it's a difference between him and Kirk Cousins. He will throw a ball into triple coverage to get it to Justin Jefferson. And sometimes that works, and sometimes that doesn't. And case in point, the last couple weeks, despite, the Vikings being able to still win, what I was talking about with Sam Darnold is starting to rear its head of, like, at some point when things are finally looking good for him, a little voice in the back of his head goes, "Hey, what are you doing? You're Sam Darnold." And he goes, "Oh,
I
right."
am Sam Darnold.
And starts throwing interceptions and fumbling the ball. Half of his interceptions have come in the back half of this season. There's just been a lot of plays where he takes a lot of big risks that don't pay off, and he's been fumbling the ball more. And I would put this as a low, but I don't think it's a low. This is what you get. This is the Sam Darnold experience. The thing is, you've built a good enough system around him that you're still able to win in spite of that. And again, it's like he was not supposed to be the starting quarterback of the team. J.J. McCarthy is. So it's fine. Again, this team is rebuilding. You're playing with house money right now. Honestly, if anything, it's probably for the best he doesn't look like an elite quarterback. Because if you won the division and had serious contention in the playoffs with Sam Darnold, that would raise some uncomfortable questions about whether or not you just wasted that draft pick on J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah.
But this is the perfect middle ground of okay, this is a good team that we do good things with. But he's not, but we still have work to do, and we can put in that rookie next year, and it'll all, that'll be our ticket to success.
Yep. Couldn't agree more, where it's literally fine, going down that fine line of we are not a trash team. We can still hold our own. Will J.J. McCarthy be, put us on the next level? Maybe. Who's to say? But I think it's just showing them not be a complete failure, especially after losing such a franchise level quarterback of Kirk Cousins.
Right. You've had that identity for your team for so long. It's are you capable of doing anything else? And the answer is, fortunately, yes.
Mm-hmm. Which is really nice.
And that's great news. Yeah.
You don't
this isn't a full-blown rebuild.
Yeah, you don't always see that with losing such a major quarterback. For especially the longevity. Shall we move to the West or the
Yes,
least?
the NFC. This is not the least division. This is kind of one of my favorites because I genuinely don't. Again, it's the meme of I have no idea what's going to happen. I point the gun at my head. I point the gun around. I put it in my mouth. Anything could happen right now. Yes. So this division is kind of smack dab in the middle. The Arizona Cardinals are currently leading at 6-4. The LA Rams.
Whose bingo card was that on?
Right, I'm God damn it, I really should just get into shit like that. You just needed to hit once. Just need one. The LA, no, don't gamble, it's evil. That's the one thing I'm full vicious. Fuck gambling. The LA Rams are 5-5. Seattle Seahawks are 5-5. And the San Francisco 49ers, your reigning NFC champs, are also 5. So... Well, yeah, why? I did not realize it was that insanely balanced. But let's start with the highs. The highs of the Rams are just so goddamn addicting to me. I've talked about the Rams being my darling team. And it might be, they have a pretty hard schedule still, so maybe it's just not in the cards this year. And the lows have been pretty low for them. But, when it's all working and it's all clicking, it's just, again, it's exactly what it was last year, which is kind of, low-key beautiful. Yeah. Of, a decent, if not spectacular running game, carried by, one of the best pure passers in the game. When Puka Nacua and Kupp have been on the field.
Yeah, no, sorry. Sorry to interrupt your excellent point. It's snowing so much and the Steelers are wearing white that the graphics are being shown through their jerseys because the program they're using can't discern where they end and the snow begins.
See, I gotta put this on my phone because my computer will explode if I try to run Discord at the same time.
Yeah.
But yes, Cooper Kupp. They finally got Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua back together, and it has looked beautiful. And even before then, they were still holding down the fort with Tutu Atwell and Demarcus Robinson. And it's that's the special sauce that Stafford and McVay bring together, where it's high-end talent, low-end talent. They're able to at least keep it afloat where they can compete. Again, I'm going to be very sad when Stafford finally can't. Again, for him at this point, it is truly pain tolerant. Is he willing to do all of the work for like half the year to be ready to play NFL games, on top of the fact that you're getting hit a lot?
Mm-hmm.
And when he finally reaches that point, he's like, all right, I'm going to be really sad because this is kind of a beautiful thing, and I'm really happy they didn't trade Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, they have great potential. Like and like the Chargers, I know I'm not always the Rams' biggest fan, but they have
You
great
just
potential.
hate LA.
I do hate LA, but
You slob.
the downside is the Rams still have to play both of our teams, Eagles and the Bears.
I didn't realize. Oh God, you're right.
Which doesn't mean too much because they also play the Saints and the Jets during this last push towards the end, and then every team in their division. So honestly, it's gonna come down to the division games. If how well they do.
Right. It's kind of it's the gussied up, sexier version of the NFC South.
Yes, agreed.
Where at least it's like, well, at least it's this. It's like, well, I like all these teams, so it's okay that it basically just came down to who had the least loss.
Well, I wouldn't say I like them all. I'm not a big San Francisco guy, but it's...
Yeah, but that's personal.
It's personal.
Personal.
Yeah. But they also don't have a very strong... Or they have a very... they don't have a clear path at the end. They have Packers, Bills, Lions, Rams. But then they have Bears, Dolphins, and they also have the Cardinals. So it's like... honestly, this division is really a crapshoot.
It genuinely, any result can happen here. And I'm okay with any result.
Cardinals have the Seahawks twice, Rams and 49ers once. Then they have the Vikings, but then they also have the Panthers and the Patriots. This is a hell of a division. This is going to come down to the wire.
Yes, it genuinely is going to be the most exciting.
Yeah, Seahawks play each of the NFC, or every NFC North team but the Lions, and the Cardinals and Rams and Jets. So it's like, wow, you guys have there's a lot of potential in these games.
Yes, I'm very excited to see where this goes. And your high point actually ties in with the current leader of the division.
Cardinals have elevated themselves from the best-worst team.
They're just a good team. I think it's fair to say they're just
a good team now. They said it all last season that the Cardinals are the best-worst team. They're not going to win the most games. They're not going to win in the prettiest fashion if they do win, but it's going to be a good game. And now the addition of Marvin Harrison Jr., a little bit more establishment under where my killer's at, Jonathan Gannon.
Your killer's a 6'4" freak who can run like a 4.4, so you're good, man.
It's a nice it's a good second year for a coach team.
Yes.
You have shown clear upside. Great acquisitions and picks. They have potential to win the division. And it's fun. It's fun.
They're honestly, that's the thing. It's like, we could think of all these sophisticated points, but it's just, I don't know, I just enjoy watching them. I also just think it's very funny that, I think about all the guys around, like Trey McBride, James Conner, Marvin Harrison Jr. It's like, they've surrounded Kyler Murray, one of the smaller quarterbacks in the league, with just a lot of tall dudes. And I'm like, that's the ideal that's the dream scenario, right? Being a short king surrounded by big muscular men who can do all the dirty work for you. It's a great life if you can live it, but I'm slightly too tall. The lowlights. So we actually split on this one. Even as an analytics guy, it's getting really hard to defend the Seahawks. Who are another team where I'm like, why are you just not better? I watch the individual games, and it seems like more often than not, they're usually in it. They're competitive, but it always just seems like something's going wrong. For some reason, they still can't develop a running game. The defense, despite bringing in one of the best defensive minds in the league, just has really underperformed at the worst times. And honestly, the only thing that's working right is the passing offense. And it's like, well, yeah, you have 3 Pro Bowl level wide receivers. I'd hope it'd work at some point. But even that, it's like, yeah, but it's so high variance. Like, Geno is 11 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. And you feel that of like,
Yeah.
he is going to be forced to sling it. Like, but at the same time, you're like, well, yeah, you just have to sling the damn ball. You have no other option. This team, like, if you don't score 30 a game, you're going to lose.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. The, it's the matter of, though, I feel like they win when it matters.
Right.
And they can turn
And
it,
that makes it more frustrating.
yeah, they can turn it up a little bit if they need to. So I think it's it's going to be interesting because I don't know this. I I don't know how bad or good they truly are. I still stand by a statement of they are the. If you beat the Seahawks, you can be considered a good team. Versus if you lose, you are probably more likely to be a bad team because they're that middle of the pack. But just in the grander scheme of the division, it is one game ahead for one team, and then everybody else is tied. There is
Right.
no winner in this division. That's nice.
Yeah, no, it really is because it's like the other teams, I feel like I have a pretty good vision of what their upside is or how good they are. Where I'm like, Rams, highest upside, but like most inconsistent. Like,
Yeah.
incredible upside, but like a lot of holes that really come. Cardinals, steady, consistent, have like explosion, have talent. 49ers, on paper the best, but they keep running into the problem of like injuries and just vibes. Seahawks, I'm like, are you bad? Are you good? I don't fucking know, man.
Yeah.
But yes,
Yeah,
that leads
go.
us into our other low light.
So yeah, the fall of the uh, former Super Bowl runners-up of this last season, they fall hard to 5-5, despite not being a crazy amount of roster changes. They currently have tied the amount of losses they had at the entirety of last regular season. And with what they've been showing, it doesn't look like they're going to win out. Of course, injured Christian McCaffrey for the first 2 months of the season definitely doesn't help. But they clear they haven't reinvented the wheel. They haven't done too many different things. It just feels like they're kind of falling apart in not a good way. And it's kind of like we talked about earlier last episode. I don't know anymore. How much of it is the mental strain from being in these situations where you get so close, and especially last year, they runners up to the Super Bowl, dominant all season. They just couldn't beat the Chiefs. It happens for the second time, and then they start off the season with their star running back out for 2 months, and other people are just getting hurt and falling apart.
Yeah, it really it's what you said. They aren't like they didn't make a lot of changes, but maybe they needed to. Maybe that's the problem.
Yeah.
Like I said, at some point the scar tissue gets so bad from bad memories. You kind of just need new faces, improve the vibes. To be like, hey, it's going to be different this year because I'm here.
Yeah.
Whereas and it's fitting that all the pieces they've had for most of this run, it's McCaffrey has the freakiest leg problem. Ayuk just has a really terrible season for getting injured.
Yeah.
Debo has not been healthy all year, both physically, both physical body and pestilence based.
George Kittle can only keep the vibe so high.
Yeah, he can only keep. He's getting hurt too now, so it's the part it's like Andrew Dice. It's like if Andrew Dice Clay tried to dive through a table and then sprained his ankle. So that's fucked. And again, it's insane that Ricky Parasol's probably the healthiest player on the team, and he got fucking shot.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, I think I don't even know what to think of this 49ers anymore. It's just right. And I don't like the 49ers like anyway, but like like you, but it is sad because it's like, man, this was a cool era of skill position players that are going to kind of get lost because it's like no
Yeah,
MVPs, no Super Bowls, kind of none.
yeah. My example from last season definitely was this team can put any quarterback into the position and they can look good because of how much talent there is on all the skill positions. So it's gonna be
Well,
interesting to see how
actually,
they end the season.
that's kind of my sneaky thought. Do you use this as an excuse not to pay? Just be like, we need a clean slate. We're going to start over at quarterback. You know,
Here,
maybe we'll look to trade either Debo or Brandon. Just push a couple pieces out to start fresh.
I think they're gonna keep Purdy. I think Mr. Irrelevant has too much of a mojo thing going on. Um, I think, I think, and because he had the Mr. Irrelevant deal, which wasn't an amazing deal. He had a roommate for a while while being the
Right.
starting quarterback for the 49ers. Like that happened. Um, I think it's a matter of what's it called? I think it's a matter of I he's not going to be overpaid. I don't think he's going to be getting the highest deals, especially after this season. But I think he's going to at least be offered. He's not. I don't expect him to get like a Josh or a Patrick or even a Dak kind of deal. But I don't think he's going to get something. I don't think he's going to be offered nothing for
Yeah,
rebuild.
you kind of just had to bank on him being realistic, his agent being realistic, but that's
That's
antithetical to being an agent.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, and I don't.
Also, well, no,
Uh,
I had a side tangent completely unrelated to this. So go ahead.
I was say I don't. I would hope that other teams are analytical enough to
Hmm.
realize that it's like he was surrounded by talent if he's
Right.
trying to shop other teams.
Um, yeah, I respect.
So
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think
again, it's the meta of the league. You have to pay him, but
yeah,
like,
it's gonna be an agent arrogancy. How
yeah, it.
arrogant does the agent think he can afford to be in this situation?
I genuinely think this might decide a lot of where the league goes in terms. Like, if he gets like one of the high, like if he gets in the top three highest paid quarterbacks, I think that just kind of breaks everything. And then there's discussions about like, do we cap how much quarterbacks can make? Do we do the soccer thing where like you have 2 or 3 contracts that don't get counted to the cap? Because it just becomes insane. Again, I respect it. I think he's gutting it out there despite like how much chaos there's been. But again, it's like he is not in the top 10 quarterbacks. He's probably not even in the top 15. And like if we're doing this just because he's had success, then like I don't know, it just becomes a team.
You have to weigh the talent. That's what I'm saying. You have to weigh the talent. You put him on the Panthers or the Patriots, he's gonna look like dog shit.
Right.
Because
He
he
wouldn't have
hasn't.
gotten this many chances.
Yeah, he would have had.
Um,
He would have been backseat, middle bench, like halfway through the season.
hmm. Um, Also, while we're at this pause moment, side tangent. So, Moana premiere is happening now. It's taking place in. Um, I've had people like I've heard a couple people who I like trust insider people be like it's actually really good. So I have my hopes. But anyway, so I'm just skimming through showing video, and there's a cute moment where a kid's talking to like the actor they have playing Mo, and then the camera pans, and I'm like, is that Cody fucking Rhodes? I'm like,
Yeah.
he's so God, you can't deny he has a very distinct with like the dyed blonde hair and the neck. It's hard to miss him. Like, again, that man could run for president if it was a tattoo. I don't think America will tattoos.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I can talk about Cody Rhodes' entire career like for hours. Not even just like
Yes,
what has happened
I want.
recently.
Yeah. Well, I want to do another round of wrestling ones. I want to know what's happened because I've had trouble keeping up
Hey,
uh, WrestleMania.
Road
So
Wrestle.
we'll put that on the schedule.
I would say Road WrestleMania is returning. It's gonna be longer this year too. Side note.
Really?
So yeah,
Nice.
They pushed back the date of WrestleMania and stuff. So it's it's gonna be longer this year. So maybe we'll bring it back because it's yeah. I could
Um,
talk way more about people's wrestling careers. Cody
Jesus.
Rhodes, great guy, and he's got like that natural level of charisma now
Right.
that it's like you can put him in any situation, and he's had to fend for himself so much and put like that he doesn't need to rely on like scripts or pre-written lines. He could just be on his own. But that's a story for a different show. Um,
Um,
all right,
anyway,
don't sleep on
yeah. So
things for the NFC West.
Um, I think like there have been a couple like, oh, this team never beats that team. Like the Rams have, like McVay's Rams have always struggled to beat Shanahan 49ers.
Yes.
The Seahawks have post Legion of Boom. The Seahawks have always had trouble with the 49ers. Both of those broke this year, which I
Yes.
guess reflects poorly on the 49ers. But I think the iconic image of this division and sort of the end of this era for the 49ers is going to be McVay like trying to dap up Shanahan and like kind of like almost like clutching his hat. Like it looked like
Yeah.
a chain snatching effort.
Is
Um,
or McVay gonna grab the proverbial like brass ring from Shanahan? Is he gonna take that top dog slot after this season?
oh, as far as I'm concerned, he's always been the top dog. It's him,
But
LaFleur for me before I even think about Shanahan.
but you know, with results to back him up. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, kind of going off of that. With all these curses being broken and things are being turned on their head, this is the best division to watch. We keep talking about how
Agreed.
close they are. This is going to be down to the wire. This is the best division to watch. I don't project anyone is going to win out the final 7-ish games they all have to play. 7, 8 games. So it is going to be fun. And
Yes. It is a blessing that all of these teams are very entertaining to watch.
yeah,
Like, they just have a visceral entertainment quality to them in terms of fun players, fun like offenses,
yeah.
enough playmakers on defense. Yeah.
And I like this season's proving it. There is not a standout team.
Mm.
So it's going to be fun to see how they all do. For example, like despite being in last place, the 49ers have scored the most points.
Mm.
Like that's crazy. So it's going to be interesting. Like there's no clear front runner except technically the Cardinals because they are only one singular game ahead of them. The rest.
Legally, yes.
Yeah, so like just don't sleep on this division. All right, let's speed run this because this isn't.
Yeah. NFC South. Whop, whop, whop. We got the Falcons in first at 6-5. Tampa 4-6. New Orleans 4-7. Get yourself a po' boy because Carolina's 3-7. See, I should have said that before New Orleans. Why would you get a po' boy and then go to Carolina? You would get whatever they make
Yeah,
in North Carolina. I don't know. I
barbecue.
always just got touristy food. Oh yeah. Um,
All right.
Highs. The Outer Banks are nice. Baker's been fun.
Yeah,
Genuinely, before Burrow's ascension, he was leading in a lot of touchdown,
yeah.
like a lot of passing stats.
His
Um,
biggest fault is that Godwin and Evans have both been injured for
yes.
the majority of it. Or like the
Again, we'd be more upbeat about this division if they didn't get hurt because they were looking really fun before that.
yeah, they were looking fun. They started off hot, and then yeah, no, they just tapered off. Panthers have been doing slightly better than expected, if you ask me,
Mhm.
with a whopping 3 wins. Um, Saints just fell off the entire train they started, as we talked about in the past.
Yes. Um, How do we still not have a team that deserves this division? Like, it's insane. Like, all the
Yeah,
talk about, like,
we're already in the lowlights. That's how little
yeah,
highlights
fuck
are.
it. Again, all the talk about how like Kirk Cousins will finally bring this thing together. We're all gonna have a good time. Kirky Cousins, and it's like they're only slightly better. Like again, they went from diarrhea to solid stool, but it's still stool. You don't want. I'd prefer not to have the poop.
Yeah. No,
I
it's
I wish I picked a less gross metaphor.
yeah. You kind of did a interesting point on that. Um,
Oy vey.
yeah. This is my campaign for. We need like an 8-team minor league for the NFL, or we need to just drop like, and then we just need to like relegate the worst like 2 teams, because I feel like they can stay bad because there's no consequences.
Right? That's a
Like
weirdly good way of putting it.
like make the NFL a solid 28 or 30 team thing. Figure it out how it works best with you guys, and just have a relegation. Have teams get sent down to minor leagues shit.
That would be really cool. I mean, but they'll never do it because it's like
Well,
capitalism, baby. Got to keep expanding. The line
yeah,
must go up.
yeah. There's
Line must
that,
go up.
but it's just like I feel like first off, it would add more football.
Mm.
Have that team play exclusively like that, like minor league exclusively play on like Tuesdays and Wednesdays, so you're not competing with the big guys or the college kids. And
Correct.
yeah, just have them kind of. It's like, all right, you're our dog shit division, as opposed to having them be like actual contenders and required to have one playoff spot.
Well,
But
see, no, there was a plan for that because they really did want to make an international division. Like pre-COVID, there was the plan of the Jaguars would play 4 home games here and 4 games in London. But then COVID happened and there was no traveling, so they kind of just gave up on that idea.
see, I feel like that is stupidly too far. You're in too different of a time zone to make that, in my opinion, effective. If it was like Canadian or Mexico, sure, why not?
Right.
And then like let's just send teams to like random ass spots. Like
Mm.
have a team in like the weird part of like away from Denver and Colorado. Give Oregon a team.
Oregon.
Yeah, throw.
I was about to say the Oregon Ducks, and I'm like, wait a minute, god damn it.
Yeah, that's something already. Give
That
like
already
the deep
exists.
south, like give that like Alabama area team outside of their college
God.
team, but like the areas where there's no
I see
NFL
what you're
team,
saying.
their college football is fucking huge.
Mm.
Anyway, what are there actually don't sleep on? I talked
I mean,
about
I
how
will
the
say the
Tampa
Saints and
Bay's
Panthers
injuries.
games are funny.
Yeah, and I talked about the Panthers or the Buccaneers injuries being their problem.
Yeah. All right. Shall we move on to the fun shit? Awards.
Yeah.
Awards. All right. So we did a couple broad ones, a couple unique ones to us. So let's start off with the obvious one. Who is our MVP halfway through? You maniac.
All right. So hot take. Start off right off the bat.
Hmm.
I refused to pick a quarterback for MVP.
I respect that. I'm looking to not pick a quarterback also, out of principle.
Outright refused to pick a quarterback. I specifically went with, based off of his last week's game, Boswell, from the kicker for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who has missed or made all but I think like 2, maybe 3 kicks this season, which is a significant amount considering how much Pittsburgh scores and stuff. And they literally beat the Ravens exclusively using field goals. He exclusively beat the Ravens himself. Think about
It was
that.
a very impressive game.
That is impressive. And it wasn't like they won 6-0. It's like, no, they scored 18 points exclusively through field goals. That's good shit.
Yes. Realistically, how well would a kicker get MVP? As a kick, I'm going to look that up right now.
I don't think, unfortunately, we live in a world that a kicker can win MVP unless if there is a specifically kicker MVP trophy.
At least 3 kickers have gotten first place MVP. Um, it is Mark Mosley, who won in 1982, Chester Markle in 1972, and Lou Michael, who also played defensive end in 19. Wait a minute. What? Mark Mosley won MVP? All right, let me look at his stats real. All right. No, I know we're running long. I know it's late, but I need to figure out how this. Okay, let's see. Okay, so he got MVP votes in. Okay, hold on. Okay, well, I'll share mine as I'm talking.
Yeah.
So I've decided to. I kind of was like on the fence about a lot of mine. I know, because like the rule is the MVP is usually, and I didn't want to do a quarterback. And Derrick Henry and Lamar are kind of slumping in the national. Like, I still believe that a dual MVP would be cool. But if that doesn't pan out, Jahmyr Gibbs of the Detroit Lions. I feel like this Detroit Lions season, and like realistically, they're going to be rewarded with Coach of the Year, probably, and like Assistant Coach of the Year. But if we want to get really crazy, I'm like, what one player best represents, who has the numbers and the story to really represent this team? And this team who's defined itself by being like built the right way, power running through like dynamic playmaking, combining like steady combining steady, like being able to do the hard stuff and the easy stuff both equally easy. I think Jahmyr Gibbs has it. He already has 796 yards, averaging 6 yards a pop, and he has 8 touchdowns. And compared to Derrick Henry, he has to share the load. David Montgomery is also low-key a full-level running back. And also, they throw the ball a decent amount. Like, everyone eats on the passing game. So for him to have these huge numbers on, like, it's honestly like it's like what we wanted Reggie Bush to be in terms of like, yeah, he doesn't get the most carries, but he makes every carry count. And if they do end up getting the #1 seed and having the best record in the league, I'm like, well, I would love it for a Lions player to be MVP. And like, in terms of guys who are fun to watch, who feel like a future face of the league, Jahmyr Gibbs is a low key one that we now and have a good time with.
Mm-hmm.
Is that crazy? Am I mad?
No, I think that's.
Am I Lagoons?
I think that's a great choice.
Okay.
Our don't sleep on star.
Hold on, real quick. So in 1982. A kicker won. It was a strike season, it looks like. 20 of 21. He made... Wow, he didn't make a single... His longest was 48. I guess that was before kickers really kicked that many from that far.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was freaky circumstances, but it did happen. Okay, that's fine. Anyway, all right, our don't sleep on players. Should I share mine first? Mine's kind of a homer pick.
Yeah, go for it.
Khalil Shakir... and like he's not that much of a secret anymore. Like people know him, but like he has kind of been the glue. Like the 2 games they lost, like that horrible Texans game was largely because they didn't have him. But he is sort of emblematic of like the consistent steadiness of this team, despite being like a 4th-round pick and not necessarily getting the most. Like it is funny, you look at the people in front of him for yards; they're getting like 100 targets, 86 targets, 70 targets. He only has 60 targets. But he's 56 catches on 66 targets. He's like historic in terms of like catch consistency. He hasn't dropped a pass this year. He's never dropped a pass he hasn't dropped a pass in these last 2 years. The only passes that he hasn't completed are ones that are considered uncatchable. His numbers aren't the sexiest, but it is like he is kind of like the embodiment of like the platonic ideal of a current wide receiver. Like super reliable hands, great short route running. Super reliable in terms of yak. He's really stout and built. He is kind of like everything you would want a modern NFL wide receiver to be. And like, if they weren't spreading it out so equally, I think he would like really surge up the rankings in terms of best receivers in the league. Maybe he'll never be an elite #1 receiver, but he is head and shoulders the best #2 anyone has, other than maybe the Bengals.
All right.
Like he's in the same camp for me as Devontae Smith and T. Higgins, in terms of like. Any other team, this guy would be getting so many more roses.
I can kind of agree to that.
I see this is where your Lions representation came in.
Yep, this is where my Lions, because we can't fault the Lions. The Lions have to be qualified for at least some of these good ones. I went with Jared
Right.
Goff.
Right. Yeah, and I
He,
honestly, I kind of agree with it.
you like, besides the definition of don't sleep on, um, he is like his stats might not be like the world's best stats on the planet.
Right.
But he is 100% a leader of this team that is going through, that has been through hell over generations.
Mm.
And they are doing great. And somebody on the line, or Pittsburgh, is trying to fight a fan?
Oh dear God! Of course, it's Pickens.
I don't know what that was. But
Yeah, we'll figure that out for next week.
yeah, we'll get the lowdown after the press conferences and shit. But he is clearly a leader of this team, especially filled with so many young guys. It is a very young team, or was,
Mm.
when he first started. So he's helping lead this, as you call it, like achievement hunting offense. And I feel like you can't just count him out.
Yeah, it is funny. The downside of the Lions being so well balanced is it feels like a lot of people won't get their roses for how good this team has been. And he, like, if it wasn't for the 5 interception game, he probably would be getting a bunch of MVP votes this year. Because again, it is one of the nicest stories of the league of like, he was pretty good early. He had a really bad Super Bowl that just colored so much of his career permanently.
Mm-hmm.
And like to see him actually evolve at this age and actually like step up and do what he has to again help a cursed franchise is really cool.
Agreed. All right. For defensive/offensive player of the year, I just went with one, and I
Okay,
chose specifically
I'll do a
offensive
defensive
player,
one.
and I went with Derrick Henry. I mean,
Yes.
it seems like such a cop out, but it can't
Well,
be
it's
a cop.
correct.
It's I was gonna say it can't be a cop out if it's right.
Yeah. What else do we need to say? It's just an obvious pick, frankly. He again, it is so nice to have him get to spend the rest of his career in a place that fully utilizes his ability, that fully takes advantage of everything he can do, and the vibes are immaculate. Again, the idea of him and Lamar in the same backfield in the all black jerseys with the black visor is just cool as shit, and I am very, very happy that we get to see this in our lifetime.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'll do a defensive one. I could have been on the fence. For me, it really comes down to it. I want to say TJ Watt, but that depends on them winning the division, I feel like. I feel like it would very much be a Myles Garrett thing of like kind of just giving credit to the franchise in like picking someone to represent the whole defense. But if they don't win the division, I'm going with Patrick Surtain the second, who like again, it's been a while since we've had like a real like a cornerback get this award. It might have been Stephon Gilmore was the last one. And I do think there is something to like the league is so desperate and hungry for like a superstar, sexy star cornerback. And Surtain has quietly been that. We just haven't noticed because his team has sucked ass. But now his team is good, and I feel like a part of that is that their defense has been a top 5 defense.
Mm-hmm.
And this might be a cool way of giving him his roses, and by extension, this franchise that's gone from zero to hero just like that.
Zero to hero, just like that.
Just like that. Apparently, they completely rewrote the script for the live action one. I don't know how this is that hard, but I digress. Anyway, like again, it's just The Wiz. It's like a cool R&B adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, reframe Hades as more of like a shady agent who's like who's like the bad influence, like in Rocky 5 when Rocky's apprentice goes with the shady guy who's like, you're gonna sell out, kid, and you're gonna beat up people who don't. Anyway, rookie of the year, Quinton Mitchell Guantanamo Bet.
Have you not heard that nickname for him yet?
No.
People have been calling him Guantanamo Bay because he just absolutely locks down whoever he's going after. Example.
I mean, Terry McLaurin looked.
Yeah, example Terry McLaurin, who didn't get a single touch of the ball, while being covered by Quinion Mitchell, who, by the way,
Yeah,
is a rookie cornerback for the
for
Eagles.
the Philadelphia Eagles. We both get one home pick. Isn't that fair?
Yeah. Um,
Um,
and I'm 100% glad that I picked him. Also, like, if you look at his stats for, like, the people who scored against him, no one has scored against him. People get
right.
a couple of catches and some yardage, but nothing like stat crazy. You're
Right.
not
He has
seeing
the best.
Jamar chase like 70-yard runs off of him.
He has a very strong balance of name brand recognition of like he was considered a highly touted prospect. The vibes of him and
Mm-hmm.
Cooper DeJean being bros. The narrative of like this Eagles defense that completely imploded last year is finally locked in, finally reached their full potential.
Yeah.
And like again, there's a real chance the Eagles could compete for the first seed. Like Jared Verse is like the favorite right now, but his challenge is like his team might not even make the playoffs, and it's just it can be really hard to justify that
Yeah.
unless it's like so where they just have such a good, it's undeniable.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But yeah, no,
you know,
he's.
oh god,
I was say like he's also like I feel like Quinion Mitchell's like less talked about than a lot of other people, and I feel
mm,
like that's because no one's like he's not doing all these interceptions because Reed Blankenship's on his side of the field, so Reed's
mm,
catching all of those, but he's not doing anything and no like to prove himself to be like talked about, but he's also not allowing things to be like how'd they get past him? How did
mm,
how did Quinion Mitchell make this stupid flag? Things like that.
yes, I'm gonna go offensive on this one. Do you want to guess who's second in the league in catches right now?
Is it Joe?
Brock Bowers. Boop, boop, boop. And like, look, I know the obvious pick is. I thought the pick is Jalen Daniels. If they make the playoffs, it's Jalen Daniels. But Brock Bowers has been everything we were promised Kyle Pitts has had, and I feel like people weren't as like high and hot and bothered about him because it was like, yeah, but
No,
remember Kyle
he's
Pitts, and also because yeah,
he's a stud.
yes, he is an absolute stud. And I was worried because it's like he's a very specific player that you have to use very specific ways, otherwise he doesn't work. But fortunately, the one thing the Raiders have done right this year, basically look at all of his plays in Georgia and be like, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. They're using him as a slot receiver. They're having him doing just enough blocking. They're mixing it up. His like what kind of coverage is he, and it has worked like gangbusters. It is genuinely so like it is so refreshing to see a guy hit the ground running like this, especially because it's like tight end. It takes years for tight ends to be good because you have to basically learn two positions, and yet they absolutely nailed it. He is already one of the best receivers. He is a stat-generating machine. He's the only thing
Mm-hmm.
that's functioning right on that offense. And he's probably going to shatter every tight end record that Sam Darnold just set, other than maybe touchdown,
Yeah.
because they don't throw a lot of touchdown. Uh, Genuinely awesome story, and it is funny to all of this consternation started in Oakland because they didn't get Penix. But Brock Bowers is also great. Like it's also great they got
Mm-hmm.
easy one. Um, let's see, best play. Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, I felt like mine makes a lot of sense. I
Hmm.
went with what I call Josh Allen being the Chief Slayer. That final drive of Josh Allen looking around, seeing no one's open, but noticing a hole, and he just goes for it in his like Bigfoot mixed with golden retriever energy sprint to first of all, do you see how he's carrying the ball in the first part of that when he first breaks out? He's holding it
Yes.
in just one hand like he's still ready to throw it. And
No, he does that. He'll fake a pump fake 6 yards after the line of scrimmage. It's
yeah,
like he'll bank on someone being like, ah,
but he's holding it like that and he's running with it. And if you look, there's no give in the ball. So I want to know what is his grip strength? First of all,
it's insane.
because he just did that without like it looked like he had no problems. And then just beautifully runs all the way to the end zone in a very well made play. And I know what people are thinking, and why isn't it the reverse hurdle play? because this play, it scored, and it had a huge. It was a game changer. It literally won them the game.
Yes.
The hurdle, while it looked super cool, and I'm gonna tell somebody to attempt that on Thanksgiving because it's not gonna be done by me. Um, it's like it was a gorgeous play. It looked pretty, but it didn't change anything significant. It wasn't for a score. It wasn't like to like turn the tides and win them the game. But like this was the whole package of like what you wanted to see on a football play for your team.
You know what? That's a perfectly reasonable explanation for that. I actually respect that.
Yeah.
I would say the hurdle, but I'm going to say the play. I'm going to make the play Lamar Jackson did, where he gets the snap, fumbles it, stumbles, makes it all the way to the sideline, and flicks it into the end zone touchdown. Which, again, I want to credit the Ravens at least a little bit here, because other than that stinker last week, they have been incredible.
Oh yeah.
And, like,
They
if
shouldn't
they
have
are the
lost week
midseason
one.
darlings of the year, yeah, if they're the midseason darlings of the year, that play where just, like, Lamar Jackson having, like, the easy stuff is now easy for him, but, like, the hard stuff is still easy for him.
Mm-hmm.
Just that incredible play where he just puts the team on his back has been emblematic of, like, even beyond just adding Derrick Henry, he has taken an even bigger step beyond the 2 seasons where he was MVP.
No, it was a gorgeous play.
Mhm.
Also, I
Um,
feel like before we get to the next part, honorable mention the Commanders Hail Mary.
right. That'll probably be the most iconic play of the year. But, well, no, the hurdle will be.
The
Then
hurdle's gonna be
Commanders.
that's
Look,
gonna
the hurdle gets its own little special shelf. You don't have to worry about the hurdle. The hurdle's fine.
hurdle's going in history. But yeah, the
Her story, in fact.
nice. Um, shall we go to the
Woo.
lows?
Yes. What is the low benching of Danny Dimes?
I
Yeah,
think
it's pretty goddamn low, honestly.
yeah, I think that is the low because that just cements that the Giants are done for the season, and I feel like they are done with Danny Dimes. I think that is
Yes. They literally are just doing this so he doesn't get hurt and get his guaranteed money.
yep. I think him being replaced, especially it's not even by their number two, it's by Tommy Cutlets.
Yes, which is hilarious because he cost them Jalen Daniels.
Yes. But Tommy Cutlets is making his return to the Giants field. Or who's their backup technically? Drew Lock, is that right?
Yes. Drew Lock is very upset. He did an interview. He was very upset.
Yeah, but it's like I'm surprised they're not starting him over Tommy Cutlets. But I feel like that's a matter of they might try and push for Drew Lock to be number one next season. Um,
Well,
uh,
again, it's the problem of like this draft is very middling for quarterbacks, but maybe it is just take one and maybe they're good, or don't.
yeah,
If they're bad, you can just draft another quarterback and it's fine.
but I think yeah they're benching him. They're going into the realm of we're putting in the fucking meme guy that everybody had fun with laughing at and laughing with last season. So I feel like that's what they're going. Like that's why they're putting him in. Is they know they're done, but they're not. Like they're at least gonna send the fans home with having fun.
Yeah,
He's gonna he's gonna like get a score at some point. They're all gonna do the hand thing. He's gonna have an interview with his mom about how he doesn't clean his room. Uh, some shit like that. They're going for a feel good story. They're done with playing serious football,
yeah,
which wouldn't
yeah. I
happen
mean, it's just
if there was regulations.
right, and it really is like it's the lowest low because the Giants made the mistake of being the first team to do the Hard Knocks postseason thing,
Oh yeah, there's
and
also
it
that.
completely bit them in the ass. It is very, very embarrassing.
The we reference the bit about them going, it's like, I don't know, it's like, I don't want to regret Saquon and stuff like that all the time in our football group chat.
Right. That is like this is that manifested as an award. What is my low? I was gonna say Bryce Young, but he ended up starting again.
Yeah, if he didn't come back, Bryce Young would have been a contender, but he came back.
Uh, right. My lowest low is probably going to be
The fall of the Saints.
yeah, the Saints lose. You know what? It is the Saints losing to the Panthers, a team that actively wasn't trying to win, losing to a team that was or beating a team that was actively trying to win. And again, the arc of having such a great start against the Panthers in the first game, and everyone being like, "Oh, this is a new hot offense. Everyone attached to this is going to get head coaching jobs," to going to you lose to the Panthers, who are putting Bryce Young back in, and then you fire everyone. Truly, the epitome of just again, it's this. The lowest low is the bottom finally falling out for the Saints, where they can't
Yeah.
pretend anymore. They are a bad team. The window is closed. Now you got to pay the bills, take your medicine, eat your fucking Stromboli, and try and rebuild.
Yep.
Enough said. Shall we wrap it up with bold predictions?
We shall. We'll end on a little bit of a lighter note. I went. I just went with two, and one
Yeah.
teased in the last episode of the regular show. San Francisco won't make it to the playoffs. So here
Yes.
is my point on that. We talked about it a lot, mentioned a lot about it. It's such a competitive division, and I don't believe that they have the easiest remaining schedule out of the bunch. So I think they're more hoping for, and plus they're at the 4 seed now. So I think they're hoping for a miracle for them to get the spot. But their next two games are Bills and Packers. They still have the Rams. They still have the Lions. So that's four tough teams out of seven.
Mm.
And sure, everyone else is like winning that, like has something similar-ish, but I don't
Yeah.
think they have it easy enough for them to get that guaranteed. And then when it comes down to it, they'll probably lose to tiebreakers.
Yeah. I think that's a perfectly reasonable prediction. A similar one I have is that I think the Dolphins are going to squeeze the playoffs. So they are a couple games behind. Looking at the standings, let me pull up the standings real quick.
All right. So,
Where I believe they have 5 wins, 4 wins
they're in
right
4
now.
wins.
They're not winning the division. It would take a miracle.
They would need to win
But
out for them to be considered an attempt to win the division.
right, they are a game and a half-ish behind the Denver Broncos, and I believe that is completely surmountable. One, because this is the closest they've been to healthy, and two, I think the back half of their schedule is very. They play the Patriots, they play the Jets, they play the 49ers, who might be packing it in at that point. They play the Browns, and they play getting the Jets twice just gives them so much more
That
cushion.
gives them an advantage, yeah.
Right, where if they can win those games, and they can win the Patriots, that's 3 of the wins they need to get to. Like the final seed is going to have like 9ish, and I'm like, can you squeak out a game between 49ers and Packers? You just steal one of those.
Yeah.
Do I think they'll be dangerous in the playoffs? No, but I think they can make it.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel
you're
so.
next.
I would say
Oh, go ahead.
they're going to be competing with, so excluding all the leaders of the divisions, because that's relatively well established on who it is. They have the Ravens to compete with, which looking unlikely. Chargers with the same record, and then Broncos have a slightly better record, and the Colts also have a slightly better record. So they're like the 8th team in a 7-team tournament for the Dolphins. So they could squeak it out.
I believe they can.
If the chips fall for them, but they don't fall for like the Broncos or the Colts, I think they can squeak in.
Yes. And your other prediction is a similar energy.
Yep, real bummer guy. I think at least Dable and Dougie P are going to be fired before the end of January.
Yeah,
I think
I
I
wanna
think
believe in Gable, but it feels like it's
I don't think he's bad enough to be considered not a coach, but like a head coach, I think he's good enough. I just think he's gotten stuck on the wrong franchise for his scheme with the wrong players.
absolutely wrong place, wrong.
I think
Why could why did
yeah, I think if he gets fired, he'll at least be offered a coordinator job with some team. With It'd be funny if it was his replacement. Um, like he replaced his replacement. But I think Dougie P is gonna be done. Like I think this is there's no swan song. I think he is going to just end here and maybe get some sort of like semi like lower caliber advisory role with the team or some shit like that. But
right?
I think this season is the end of Doug Peterson being a head coach. Um, and honestly, from our talks today, hot take: Shanahan gets fired. It's gonna be the wild one.
Oh, that's a good one. I that see that's what I think. I think it's really gonna come down to Purdy or Shanahan. One of them's gonna go, and I think Shanahan in
I
a
think,
last ditch attempt
yeah,
shot at a
I think Shanahan's gonna go. And let's fuck it. Let's make this even a wider thing for like the parlor, like people looking to make a parlay. Bill Belichick replaces him
Oh my god, that's so good. I've been trying to
because
everyone's trying to figure out. That's one of my predictions. He's going to be hired for the like someone's going to try and scoop him up. But
no,
that's such
it's
it fits perfectly.
it makes sense. But Belichick has, I believe, already established he wants to be back at a coach.
Yes. All of his like media stuff has been about like selling because a part of the problem was like a lot of owners were like, we don't want to deal with it. Freak. So he's trying to make himself more affable, to make him remind people why he's. And you're right, because what is he going to want? He's going to want some level of control and personnel. He work with John Lynch. He's going to want a quarterback who's already there, who's good enough, and he's not going to want to rebuild. You know, he's old. He wants to get the wins quick, and this is the fastest way to do that. If Shanahan gets fired, brainer. Like that's their last ditch attempt to win a Super Bowl in San Francisco. Uh, Mine, in terms of my wild picks, I have two for you, and then we go on that. Derrick Henry is going to break the rushing yards, which I believe is 2,000-ish. He didn't have the best game against the Steelers, but I believe he can still do it. I'm going to looking over the Ravens' schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I believe he's on pace to get 1,000. His schedule going forward: the Chargers, which is a tough matchup, the Eagles, but then he gets the Texans, Browns, and Giants. It's not going to be easy, but I do think it is, and I want to believe he can. Because I want to see a running back break around. And I do feel like as the season gets colder, they're just going to rely on him. But yes, so and then my other prediction is Tom Brady is going to be on a team by the end of the season.
Okay.
He's going to divest from the Raiders. He's going to divest from the Raiders, and because it just like the commentary thing isn't working, I don't know how committed he is to
not working. I hate.
I don't know how committed he is to like ownership. I feel like he would be willing to quickly divest if he had a chance to play again. Because I do think that, like, we were talking about who would go for Aaron Rodgers, and I'm like, whoever would go for Aaron Rodgers would probably just call Tom Brady and see if he's willing to more time. You're telling me that, like, if it doesn't work out with Brock Purdy, 49ers wouldn't go for it. You don't think that the Raiders would go for it? Well, he owns the Raiders now. There's a handful. You don't think the Jets have at least had one little meeting where they're just like, okay, what if, though? What if? There's at least 3 or 4 teams that I think could talk themselves into it. And I think he just wants to keep playing. I think he's realized, like, this isn't really, I'm not vibing with any of this. That's one of my bold predictions for you.
I feel like this is on.
Shall we wrap it up for the evening? We've been talking for 4 hours.
Yeah, we have. Send us home, Carter.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for staying with us for half an NFL season. But we ain't done yet, ladies and gentlemen. We got an entire back half of this football season. We got the playoffs. We got the Pro Bowl. We got the big daddy game of them all, the Super Bowl. You know, we still got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. It's only going to get more exciting from here. This is probably the most parody we've seen in our lifetimes in the NFL, and who knows what's going to happen. But I know I'll be there to talk about it with Kevin and have a good time and maybe make people laugh. And I can't wait to see y'all with us. Godspeed, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go take a nap or play Fortnite, whichever.